I'm delighted to be joined by Jamie Jackson, Manchester United correspondent for The Guardian and The Observer. Jamie, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for asking.
First of all, we have some, let's say, breaking news. Less than 48 hours after Pogba spoke about wanting to win for this team and to be successful, his agent, Mino Raiola, comes out with these words: "I can say that it's over for Paul Pogba at Man United." Jamie, do you know what's happening with this Pogba situation right now?
Well, Raiola's got, a little bit of a history of criticising the club and saying these kind of things since Pogba arrived in summer 2016. There's two or three options, really. They triggered a year contract extension, which goes to summer 2022. And I don't know whether this is a move by Raiola to try and force United's hand to give him another proper, if you like, or another 4-year contract, because what's interesting, are you saying, I think he should leave in January for all parties. That's obviously Pogba, the player, and United, because he could leave as a free agent. But there's still next summer where he could be sold. You know what I mean? He wouldn't be free. He wouldn't be free then. He'd be free in summer 2022. So I think the club probably were hoping to have sold him the summer gone, but obviously, sadly, because of the COVID pandemic, this has affected football finances. Juventus are interested. But on the one hand, it's on the eve of this very important game tomorrow, obviously at Leipzig. I did the press conference today with Solskjaer. He was in a ebullient mood. They beat West Ham in the way that they have been doing, coming from behind. So on the one hand, you say, this is not great. And it's not really, on the eve of this game. But on the other hand, because it is Raiola, this ongoing sort of, criticism, the club, Woodward, the hierarchy, to a certain extent, they could probably laugh it off and say, here we go again, more noise. But it's not good, really. I think they signed Donny van der Beek because they thought Pogba was going to leave in the summer, the close season, so sort of next June, July, August, whenever. Whether he saw, I suppose, if the question is, could he leave in January? He could, but who's got the money? The sort of money really that United want for him. It might be PSG. I think they're the favourites. I don't think Real Madrid. He likes him, Zidane, but I don't know if they've got the money. Why didn't they go for him last summer? You might say, well, they might have some more money now, but it's only January. We're sort of still right. Well, coming out of it slightly, we're still right in the midst of this pandemic. So it's not great, but to a certain extent, as I say, if this had been Marcus Rashford's agent or, Mason Greenwood or, Maguire, wow. But because it's Raiola, it's to a certain extent, you probably have the same fairy tale in Serbia, the boy who cried wolf too many times, just pretending there's a wolf there when actually, after a bit, no one listens to him because he's always saying there's a wolf there and there's not. And it's a little bit like with Raiola a little bit. So I don't know, it's water off a duck's back, really.
Nothing new, really.
Sorry?
Nothing new, really, at the moment from Raiola. Standard stories from Raiola.
A little bit, yes, a little bit. I mean, let's see what happens. I'd be surprised if he was sold in January, but you never know in football. You just don't.
Let's start with recent United form. It's been a start of the season full of, let's say, ups and downs for the team. But at the moment, United stands pretty high up the table and they look like competitors again. What is your view on current United season?
Yeah, I mean, they've won the last 4 in the league, is it? Yes, they've won the last 4 in the league.
Yes. With a game in hand.
Yes, exactly. This is what I was going to say. So if they win this, then I think they'll only be 2 behind the leaders, which are Spurs and Liverpool. Obviously, they've got 24 points, I think, goal difference separating them. Who knows? I don't think they're out of contending for the title, but they might be in a month's time. They've got the derby on Saturday. Obviously, Manchester City are coming to Manchester United, Old Trafford. Tell you what, if they beat them, what that will do as a message, that they beat City, I think it was home and away in the league last season, plus one of the EFL Cup semi-final legs. So they beat them 3 times. Excuse me. Not many teams do that to Pep Guardiola's City. And the reason why they beat them a little bit is because Guardiola likes to have the ball a lot and, attack, and that means that United can play on the counter, get the ball, quick break. That's what they're very good at. So I would suggest if they could beat City and put a good run together over Christmas, they might be there all the way until April, May. Remember, they started later than other teams. I mean, because in the Europa League semi-final. So that means they didn't have any break, really. They had a couple of weeks. They had next to little pre-season. And he knows what he's doing, really, Solskjaer. People, I think you can't really argue with finishing third last season. It's not winning, but they weren't going to finish above City or Liverpool. So I give them a chance. I just think the defence needs to tighten up a bit. I think it's 16 they've let in. That's why the goal difference is about 2 or something. But attacking with Fernandes going in, I think the other thing they've missed is Greenwood being available all the time. So he played all the time basically when football restarted in our country. To finish the Premier League season in June, he basically played every game, Greenwood, and he scored a lot of goals. And I think they've missed that because he gives them something extra. So it's interesting. Tomorrow, Cavani and Martial aren't travelling, and I think Greenwood will start at centre forward, and I think Rashford will play wide. Because if you go back to a game they played against Spurs in December, that's what happened. He had a choice between Rashford and Greenwood, and he put Greenwood as number 9. So, I really love what. I mean, they've got a very good squad now. United, they really have. People like, oh, you never got Sancho, what a disaster. But Telles is an upgrade at left back, and Van der Beek looks a very good footballer.
You mentioned Solskjaer. You are author of social biography. Book is called Red Apprentice, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Making of Manchester United. You've said that you spoke to about 40 people about his life and obviously his time at Man United. What made you decide to write a book about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer? And could you tell us a bit more about him as a person?
Yeah, sure. To answer the first part of the question, he's a very interesting subject. As a writer, because I write novels as well, like fiction, so I like stories. As a writer, there's a lot of story there, but also there's never really been a definitive, in-depth biography of him. It's a very good subject, and because of how he returned to Manchester United as the caretaker manager, temporary manager at first, that was a bit of a fairy tale. The goal in '99, it's a bit of a fairy tale. How he got his move to United was a bit of a fairy tale. So there's a lot of story there. And to answer the second part of the question, which I think is a really good question, because I think this is why I think he has a chance at United. As a person, he's a very bright man, very intuitive, understands himself a lot, is able to read people, and all those things, if you think about it, are kind of what you need if you're going to be a very good manager of players, able to make you, get the best out of you and then be able to get the best out of me as two different people. And what I was struck by when I did this book, it was about 40 or 50 people, about a year and a half, was even at Cardiff, where, he had them for half a season, Cardiff City in the Premier League, and they got relegated. I spoke to a couple of players who were there under him, and each of them said, wow, what a really nice man, what a very, very good football man. And he'd left an impression on them as a sort of human being. He'd added something to their lives, and that was basically something that I was hearing all the way through. I'm not saying he's a perfect sort of Superman, but he is an impressive character. And I don't know if you had the chance to read any of the book, but I start off by saying in the very start that he's smart enough to understand. Oh, he's only Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. He's a bit of a sort of mini Ferguson. What does he really know? What's he ever won in serious league? He understands all that criticism. He doesn't really care. He's smart, but he's got his own little sort. He's got his own personality, charisma, and I do give him. I mean, in his very first management job at Molde, he went there, which is like a football club. Obviously, he played for. He's very near where he grew up. And he won the Norwegian, Premier League, the equivalent. In his first season as a manager, it was their very first title ever in 100 years, and then he retained it. I don't care what league you're in, that's impressive as your very first job. He understands. And speaking to players there, some of the things they were telling me, I've seen happen at United, just the way that they really wanted to play for him. Talking to a couple of them, the first time I went to Maud and said, look, the very first thing he did was convince us that we could win the title. And it happened. I think it's impressive. But of course, it is... you might say it's only Norway, but it's still a very tough football professional league that you have to win. And he managed in the Champions League with Molde, I think, the second time, and also with Molde the first time. So he has got experience, but I do understand why people think, oh, it's Manchester United, why don't they get Pochettino? But Pochettino's never actually won anything, for example. He might be really good, but I think the club really believe in him. And having done this biography, I've got quite an in-depth sort of sense of what he's about. And that's why I think, I sort of like to say I think he's got the best chance of any manager since Ferguson of winning a 21st title. So he's obviously better than Van Gaal, even better than Mourinho, because I think Mourinho wasn't the right fit. Mourinho needs, like he's got at Spurs, basically, not a team full of superstars, but, he's come in there and he's got Kane, he's got Lloris, he's got Son, he's got Ali, he hasn't got any time for now, but, he's added... United was a far bigger job than that, and it wasn't a good fit.
Speaking of titles, in one of your recent interviews, you said that Oli could still win the title at United. Do you think at the moment this team is capable of winning big trophies?
Yes, I do. I think, listen, it's not Manchester City, it's not Liverpool, but I do think, I can't remember what the results were. I think last year they drew and lost to Liverpool. And I also say against City, they did home and away. So that's in the league. So, if we're thinking they're going to be, the big two, that was last season. And I think they're better. Now, look, if you look at Liverpool this year, they look better to me because they've lost Van Dijk, they've lost Gomez, they've lost the goalkeeper. And wow, look at Jota. Look at how, he's got them right where he wants them, Klopp. Fair play to the guy. He knows his stuff. But I do think they've got a chance. I'm not saying a massive chance, but they've got a chance. And I don't mean like a 1,000 to 1, very, very. I mean more like a sort of maybe a 15 to 1 chance. Sort of not great, but not really, really outside. You have to wait and see really. But this is why this week's going to be interesting. He has to beat Leipzig really, just for all sorts of reasons. The confidence obviously going through, and then if he could beat Manchester City, it's been very interesting. And this is the thing about United; it's always interesting. It's always a bit. In English, we say a soap opera. It's always sort of ups and downs, and you never quite know.
One of ups and downs periods was definitely summer transfer window, and we all know that it finished a long time ago, but the headlines are still about Sancho possibly going to United. As far as we know, Sancho had personal terms agreed, but the transfer fee was a problem even after 3 or 4 offers. As a man with a lot of information inside the club, do you know how close that deal was to happen?
Yeah, good question. It was quite close. I think the issue in the end was the package, including the agent fee. And when they priced it all up, it was about, not quite, but more or less 250 million euros. And they just felt that in the current climate that we talked about, I mentioned before, with COVID affecting finances, they took £150 million option for a loan out. This is Manchester United. In the end, they didn't use it, but that shows that they haven't got lots of cash sloshing around. Excuse me. Because they had to borrow that. So I think in the end, it was just too expensive a deal. Now, it's interesting because by the time you get to next summer, if they're going to try and revive it, I mean, they might try in January, but I don't see it. Where will Greenwood be? Will Greenwood be kind of not a superstar, but prove that he's the real deal over another full season? Will they even need him? I think they will go back for him. And it's interesting because I know Liverpool, or I think Liverpool anyway, were interested. But now that Jota's gone there, do they really need Jadon Sancho? So, yeah, I think it was always about the overall fee. They couldn't agree a fee, basically. I think it was about 15, 20, but they also couldn't afford the sort of package of the wages and the agent's fee. Now, I don't know whether that will change in the summer. But, this is what I'm saying. It kind of, the fact they didn't sign him kind of blinded a little bit to the fact that, look, Tellers is a good signing. Van der Beek and Cavani was a very smart signing as well. So, I don't think it was the end of the world that he didn't get him. Obviously, I think he would have enhanced the squad, the team.
Speaking of signings, one player I really want us to talk about is Bruno Fernandes. He's simply a world-class player, but how much of an impact mentality-wise Bruno was to this United side?
Yeah, massive. I remember doing the very last game before football ended in Europe. Well, sorry, one of the last ones, which was at Lask. I was there in Austria, where it was, there was no one in there apart from media and obviously the players, and so you could hear everything then. I wrote a piece on it actually, Addy, about how Maguire's the captain, but Fernandes is the one you could really hear. I mean, you could hear other players, including Maguire, but Fernandes has really gone in there, and he's a bit like Roy Keane actually, and he's sort of not completely, but similar vocal. These are the standards. You better sort of reach them because look at me. So I think he's been had a massive effect. And this is another thing that should not be underestimated that Solskjaer has done. He's added the right kind of mentality in players. So it's not just about how talented you are. Fernandes would probably have been a good signing without the leadership, the mentality thing you ask about. But with that, it makes him an amazing signing because he's all around there, and it lifts other people like Cantona, like Van Persie that season. He's the best signing since Van Persie, and there's an argument that he's the best signing. Oh, I don't know, going back to maybe, I can't remember if Keane was after Cantona, but he's in that sort of bracket. You've got Cantona, you've got Keane, and I think you've got Fernandes in terms of the last whatever it is 30 years. Is it 30 years? Yeah. In terms of the impact, and that's a bit. He has an argument now for getting him Manchester United's best ever side. He probably wouldn't, but he's got he's in an argument now. That's how good he is. So a very smart signing, and again another reason why I'm not a United fan, but I would say if you're a United fan, I'd be sort of confident that Solskjaer knows what he's doing.
Man United executive vice chairman Ed Woodward recently said that we will continue to support Oli with a planned long-term approach to recruitment focused on the summer windows. What areas do you think United will address next summer or maybe even in January? And do you know some specific profiles they are going to target?
Well, I think if you look at a player who's suspended for tomorrow night's game for Leipzig, Upamecano, he's a centre-back, looks very good. You've got the gentleman at Napoli whose name, what's he called? The centre-back at Napoli.
Koulibaly.
I'm sorry?
Koulibaly.
Yes. So I think centre-back is what they will target. But, the issue is do they think, does Solskjaer, because it is Solskjaer, does he still want Sancho? Because if so, I'm not sure if they can get Koulibaly and Sancho, for example. But I think, centre-back and maybe a wide or attacking player is what they need. I actually think they need two centre-backs, Addy, because I think Maguire and Lindelof, good against certain oppositions, but against pace, especially counter-attack pace, and I'm not sure they're that good aerially either. From corners, United are a bit vulnerable. So I think they need two, but at least one. And then what you can do is you can partner Maguire with this guy they get, and if it's Upamecano or Koulibaly or partner Lindelof. And you've got two in Zabi, who Solskjaer really rates, but can never seem to get fit enough to have a run of performances. So there you go. I think Sancho is definitely still in the cards, and a centre-back like Upamecano or Koulibaly, that sort of, those two positions, because they've upgraded left back. Wan-Bissaka's a very good right back. He's getting better and better. The keeper, well, you've got Henderson there. They've got, even if Pogba leaves, you still have Fred, Van der Beek, Fernandes, McTominay. I'm sure there's one more that I can't. Sorry,
Matic.
There you go. And then you've got all the attackers. So I think centre back and an attacking player.
They are close, definitely. That's all from us today. Jamie, once again, thank you so much for your time. It's really been a pleasure.
Thank you very much.